Welcome to Really American. I am Michael Hayne. Happy debate day. Yes, how will Trumpy Dumpty embarrass the country and himself tonight? Any interesting bets, wagers? Well, let's get back to another major embarrassment, which is JD Vance. JD has had a bad couple of weeks. Let's face it, he's had a bad couple of months ever since becoming Trump's running mate, which was the worst selection ever. Over the weekend, JD was spotted wearing a t-shirt in a pool. Not weird at all. By the way, JD, wet t-shirt look on a 39-year-old man from Ohio, not too good. But one positive thing about JD, who's basically the Handmaid's Tale meets John Wayne Gacy, meets your creepy uncle that you're forced to sit next to at Thanksgiving, is people seem to hate him as much as Trump. According to top Democratic Rep Katherine Clark, who appeared on CNN, she explained how the selection of JD Vance as Donald Trump's running mate actually helped create a surge of voter registrations. Yeah, so while there are millions of Americans who are enthusiastic about voting against Trump, and actually enthusiastic about voting for Kamala, which is why Joe Biden stepped aside and she stepped in and, got rid of that enthusiasm gap. But the GOP, who I can't understand why they're so against gun control because they're constantly shooting themselves in the foot. Now that JD Vance is a running mate, it's created a deluge of enthusiasm of people that not only want to vote against Trump, but now they have extra incentive to vote against Trump. Because JD, who lacks all charm, all wit, all charisma, is more of an anathema to couches than he is to women. Yeah, not quite popular with the ladies is JD. Anyway, the Democratic rep went on to explain how much of a consequential effect this is having on a surge in voter enthusiasm.
Let's take childcare, which is an issue I hear everywhere I go as an extreme cost for families that prevents them from being able to get by. And Kamala Harris has put forward a plan around childcare. She has worked her career to try and get universal pre-K to help parents and employers meet the needs of their children while being able to go to work and know that they have found quality, affordable, accessible childcare. What have we heard from J.D. Vance and Donald Trump? From Donald Trump, a complete word salad. He doesn't understand the needs of working families. And from J.D. Vance, at the same time, House Republicans in the budget they're going to put forward this week are cutting Social Security Administration. He's saying that grandparents should just do more to help their children. You really cannot even make up how out of touch Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are. And what I heard from voters in purple, red, and blue districts over the last few days is that matters to them. They don't trust J.D. Vance to order donuts. They certainly don't trust him to order American families on if, when, and how they can have children. So we're seeing a surge of volunteers, a surge of first-time donors, and we know that Kamala Harris is the underdog going into this, but momentum remains on her side.
One thing.
Yes, and if a legally liable rapist, sex-offending pedo who's perpetually making passes at his daughter wasn't incentive enough for you ladies to run for the hills, there is the bountiful anti-woman creepiness gift that is J.D. Vance. In fact, the Vance selection has significantly cut into the gender gap and has favored Kamala Harris. Let's take a look at that.
Well, who is also the host of the Focus Group podcast and executive director of Republican Voters Against Trump. Great to have all of you here. Sarah, this new ABC Ipsos poll has Harris leading Trump by 13 points. You've been talking to focus groups, I know, nonstop about this election. Is this what you're seeing from women you've been talking to?
Yeah, look, one of the biggest changes we've had recently in the election is the announcement of J.D. Vance as Donald Trump's running mate. And J.D. Vance has had a number of big missteps that have really made him radioactive to women. And one of the things you see in the focus groups, look, a lot of times the stuff we talk about in Washington doesn't always break through or translate to regular voters. But J.D. Vance's childless cat lady comments are absolutely resonating with voters. They come up in every focus group. Men bring them up. Women obviously bring them up. And I want to explain one of the big differences in how this election is different in terms of rhetoric around women than previous ones, because Trump's always been bad on women. But the fact is, this time there is a policy there's a policy up for grabs, right? Abortion is a big issue that it matters whether or not women trust Donald Trump and JD Vance. Before, it was just about rhetoric. Now there are policy implications, and that really matters. And JD Vance has done this thing where a lot of Trump's negatives with women, they're built in, right? They're baked in. People know about them in Donald Trump. But JD Vance has really sort of reanimated a lot of these concerns from women. It has highlighted the fact that Donald Trump is terrible when it comes to his rhetoric and his policies on women. And so voters are sort of retuning into that in a way that they had kind of it had dropped off their radar. But JD Vance has put it back squarely into the conversation.
I find that.
Okay, so in other words, when it comes to the concerns of female voters, Trump is like herpes simplex 1, and then JD rolls around and it's like herpes simplex 2. Got it. What I can't fathom, what I will never be able to fathom, is remember how like decades ago, like if you couldn't spell fucking potato, remember Dan Quayle? He couldn't spell potato, like he was ineligible. It's like, that's it. No, you're not presidential material. But somehow a psychotic, malignant narcissist, twice impeached, ignored a plague, resulted in the loss of 1 million Americans, tried to thwart an election, refused to concede, would go on to engage in a violent insurrection, told over 30,000 lies, been found liable for rape, was recently convicted and found guilty on 34 counts. And yet, this is somehow a tight race? Again, mind-boggling. And while Kamala Harris's standing with female voters was significantly boosted with the selection of J.D. Vance as Trump's VP, younger people, as well in critical swing states, are more likely to support the Democratic presidential nominee, as Vice President Kamala Harris has taken over President Joe Biden's place in the race, according to an exclusive U.S. News poll. The poll found a whopping 82% of younger adults in swing states strongly agree that Biden made the right choice in bowing out of the race. If the election were held today, 65% say they would support Harris, compared to 35% who said they would support Trump. When Biden was the presumptive Democratic nominee, however, just 59% of young people said they would back him, compared to 41% who said they would back Trump. That was weeks ago. This striking disparity is reflected in a U.S. News poll conducted by Generation Lab, which surveyed roughly 2,000 young adults ages 18 to 34 in key battleground states, beginning August 25th on the heels of the Democratic National Convention through September 3rd. It's the second in a series of polls focusing on this demographic and captures the changes in sentiment over quite the chaotic 6 weeks. So all you Gen Z younglings I constantly see showing up in my TikTok FYP, you got to show that you have for real the voter is and show up on election day, or actually vote early as I do because I'm in one of those states where you can vote early. Make sure you actually show up, because Trumpy Dumpty, he doesn't even want people to vote. He wants to thwart and contest the election, which is why the emaciated grasshopper daughter-in-law, Laura Trump of his, is basically securing all money, all donations are being set aside so they can fight to contest this election. Anyway, I am Michael Hayne. This is Really American. If you like our content, hit that subscribe button and follow me on my latest TikTok at Mike Hayne Comedian. Talk to you later.